Okay, next let's recap network addressing and documenting it. We've been learning a lot about network addressing. We've learned how to look at a host address and its subnet mask and figure out what network it belongs to. We've learned VLSM. We've been talking about doing descriptions and all of that. So now we just want to get really good at documenting it. The more and the better your documentation is, the easier it will be when you need to scale your network or you need to troubleshoot. So we'll continue to practice throughout this class doing our documentation and descriptions. It's super helpful to have a topology diagram like we have on our labs. It's a good idea to put your addresses on your topology diagrams and then also have an addressing table and keep that handy. It will make your labs much easier. All right, we know that there's a couple of different ways we can address our host PCs. One is statically, where you go in there and manually assign it an IP address, the subnet mask, the default gateway, and if we have a DNS server, you can put the DNS server there. Or dynamically, which is the way that we're accustomed to our PCs getting addresses dynamically. So here, this is something we've been doing. You can go statically assign the address, you tell it what subnet mask, what default gateway address it will be, and in this case here are our DNS servers. Where else do we need IP addressing? It's a good idea to put IP addressing on your switch so that you can manage it. We've done this a couple times in our labs. So we use interface VLAN 1, so the virtual LAN address. We want it to come from the same network. It will have the same network address. Why do we do the no shutdown? We do the no shutdown so that we know that that interface is active and information can pass through it. And then lastly, notice here, we're telling the switch which default gateway it belongs to. So same thing, it knows where information will be coming from or going to. We want to be able to put IP addresses on the router interface. Of course, this is how we set the default gateway. So right here, this LAN's default gateway, this is the router that functions as the default gateway. This interface is what functions as the interface that will allow traffic to come and go. It has to have an IP address and it has to have the no shutdown command so that it comes up and packets can go through it. So we want to make sure that we configure the address and then document it. All right, basic router settings. I hope that these also are looking familiar. We want to assign our router a name. We want to give it some basic security features. So we enable secret class. So we just enabled the privileged executive. We've just secured management of the privileged commands. The line console 0, this is so that I am protecting and locking down anybody connecting with a console. The line VTY, this is for remote access, right? I want to secure that. Service password encryption, what does that do? It's going to encrypt all of my past and future passwords. Banner of the day. Why do I do copy running configuration to the startup configuration? Because anything that you've just done, you've been putting it into the running configuration. Now you want to get it into the startup configuration. So if you start that device again, it will have everything that you did in your configuration files. If we're using IPv6, we know that things are a little bit different, right? You need to know whether you're going to be doing static IP addressing. If you do, you can use stateless IPv6 addressing or DHCP version 6. We'll be going over all of that again in CNT150. What's another important thing about IPv6? IPv6 will not work on the router unless you tell it to do IPv6 unicast routing. The only way that a router can forward IPv6 packets is with the IPv6 unicast routing command. And then lastly, it's a good idea to verify everything. My favorite command, whether it's IPv4 or IPv6, is the show the IP interface brief. That will show you if the protocols are up and working and if the interfaces are up and working. For IPv6, it's show IPv6 interface brief. Another super handy command that we will be using a lot is show IP route or show IPv6 route. Of course, show running configuration, and you can break that down and look at the specific interface ID. Let's also take a look at the LED lights. If you're having a problem, it's a good idea. You're almost always going to have problems with IP addressing and or cabling. So after you've checked your IP addressing, if that is correct, next check your cabling and you'll be looking for the device LED lights.